Unless the Lord builds the house, they labor in vain who built it. Unless the Lord guards the city, the watchman stays awake in vain. It is in vain for you to rise up early, to sit up late, to eat the bread of sorrow, for so he gives his beloved sleep. Behold, children are a heritage from the Lord. The fruit of the womb is a reward. Like arrows in the hands of a warrior, so are the children of one's youth. Happy is the man who has his quiver full of them. They shall not be ashamed, but shall speak with their enemies in the gates. They shall not be ashamed, but they shall speak with their enemies in the gate. We're going to be kind of all over the place, but we're going to end up at the same place, which is back at Psalm 127. But when I was studying this passage in its own context, it didn't make sense at first. So we have to put it in its correct context in order for us to fully understand the weight and the gravity of this passage. What is that context? It is the context of war. It is the context of the Christian war that we fight every day, both physical and spiritual. It is in the context of war that makes this passage so unique and beautiful, especially on Father's Day. It is not missed on me the importance of Father's Day, but we'll get back to that, back to the war. Turn with me to Ephesians 6:10 through 13. Because we are not just fighting a war in the physical against people, although the war is so often played out in the physical. We are actually fighting a war in the spiritual sense against an enemy that wants nothing but our utter destruction. Finally, my brethren, be strong in the Lord and in the power of his might. Put on the whole armor of God, that you may be able to stand against the wiles of the devil. For we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of darkness of this age, against the spiritual hosts of wickedness in the heavenly places. Therefore, take up the whole armor of God, that you may be able to withstand in the evil day, and having done all, to stand. What does it mean, though? What does it mean in the context of what we're talking about? Let's go back to Father's Day. Fathers have an unusual place in the Bible, in that we are reflections of our Holy Father. Let me say that again. Every time you see a father in the Bible, every time, it's either something good or something bad. But in general, you are looking at that father as an example of what we should be like. That's why when we turn to Psalm 127, it says, unless the Lord builds the house, they labor in vain who built it. Why? Because the family is the very foundation of the Christian life. Built on the Father. Built on the Father. The family is the very foundation of Christian life. Even if you do not have children, your family, your mother, your father. If you do have children, your mother, your father, your children, your wife or girlfriend, the point of the matter is the family is the foundation of Christian life. Your family, my family, is the very foundation on which Christian life stands. Every member of the body of Christ stands upon the foundation that was given to them by their family and the foundation that they stand on in the midst of their family. Family is all. So back to the war, right? If the family is the foundation of Christian life, then what would the devil want to attack the most? If family, walk with me here. I just told you that we are in a war, and I just read you Ephesians that told you that it is not a physical war, although it's played out in the physical sense. It is a what? It is a what? So, if the family is the very foundation of Christian life, then what would the devil like to attack the most? The family, your children, your home. Why? Because if you can destroy the foundation, you can destroy the father. If you can destroy the father, then the whole family gets destroyed. Because of this, we now put Father's Day in the correct context. Okay, maybe, just maybe, I've gone a bit too far. Let's rewind a little. I'm still in the Bible. Let's go to Job. Let's go to Job. I'm still in the Bible. I'm still here. I'm still in the Bible. I'm hanging out in the Bible. Let's go to Job 1:10. Have you not made, now this is Satan talking to the Lord. So Satan answered the Lord and said, does Job fear God for nothing? Have you not made a hedge around him, around his house, around all that he has on every side? Have you blessed the work of his hands, and his possessions have increased in the land? What am I saying here? Satan is saying, I can't touch him because he's a godly man. And more importantly, I can't touch what? His family. I can't touch his family. Because I know if I can touch his family, he's going to what? Curse God. That's what Satan says. And then if you skip down to 13, what does Satan do immediately? What does he do immediately afterwards? Kills his children. Just pause. Satan had been wanting to kill his children for a long time. How do we know? Because Satan and God are having a talk. And Satan's like, I would love to touch Job, but I can't. See, this is a recipe here. This is a recipe here, fathers. He's saying, I would love to touch Job, but I can't because you have set a hedge of protection around them. Why? Because Job's faith protected his whole family, encapsulated them in what? A hedge of protection. Job's faith meant that his family was secure. And God said, okay, go ahead, just don't kill him. And what does God allow Satan to do almost immediately? Attack his family. He goes right after what? The foundation of a godly life. I know this is about fathers, but I'm going to talk to mothers for a moment. Don't be a stumbling block to men that are trying to be fathers. If the foundation is broken, then how are we going to stand on it? If God doesn't build the house, how will the house stand? If God doesn't build the family, if God is not in the middle of that family, if God is not with you in that family, how will the family stand when the enemy attacks? Job lost his whole family. No, he still had who? His wife. Now, if they were not of God, that wife would have been gone. That wife was with him from the beginning all the way to the end. Why? Because it was easy? Job had it super hard. All types of madness jumps off in Job. But the wife is there. Why is the wife there? Because of her foundation in who? God. Because of her foundation in God. Don't be a stumbling block. Don't be a stumbling block. Because you're only causing your own family to stumble. If the man is a godly man, he'll want to raise godly children. If the woman is a godly woman, she will want to raise what? Godly children. I didn't say you have to love each other. Maybe that's past. Maybe that's past. Maybe I don't like you anymore. Maybe I understand you like me that night, but not now. I understand that. But the point of the matter is, I don't care how you two feel about each other. What I care is what? The foundation in which we raise our children. Because if God doesn't build the house, it's in vain. If God doesn't guard the house, it's in vain. You can be as worried as you want to be. You can be as scared as you want to be. You can be as tearful as you want to be. But if God isn't there, it's in vain. That's why we are fortunate to be Christians. That's why we are fortunate to build a house upon God, upon the foundation in which God has given us. But if we can do this, see, this is the if. See, now we're going to the B clause. See, the first part is talking about the war and about the house. But now we can talk about children being a heritage. Because children ain't no heritage if we aren't raising them right. It says children are an arrow. All right. I was at Medieval Times for my kid's birthday. Hey. Anyone know Medieval Times? Medieval Times? Medieval Times? Medieval Times? No? Maybe? Okay. Anyone seen a knight movie? You know, a movie with knights and people with swords and stabbing and jousting and all that stuff? Okay, I've seen it. I actually love that stuff. I love the knights. You know, I like to think of myself, if I was in those days, I like to think of myself in the armor, jousting people, stabbing people. I don't know. I like to think of myself as a knight. Anyway, I love that stuff. I ate it up, okay? There was, in those days, a castle. They called it the keep. My mom pointed this out. It's called a what? It's a keep. When the kingdom was attacked from the outside, all of the people would do what? Run to the keep. Because that was the most fortified area right? It was the most fortified area, okay? Now, the enemy would stand at the door of the keep, and you would shoot arrows down upon them. Now, if you had to take out your sword, then that meant what? They were already inside. That's why it says an arrow and not a what? Sword. Because they are on the outside wanting to what? They're on the outside of my keep, see? They're on the outside of my castle. They're on the outside of my house, wanting to attack my very foundation. But God has set a hedge of protection, so all they can do is stand on the outside. Why? Now listen, if the kingdom was poop butt, right? If the kingdom was a nothing, if the kingdom was a nobody, if they didn't have any great sons, they didn't have any great warriors, if they were just nobodies, then the enemy wouldn't stop at the gate, right? The enemy would just walk right on in. If they didn't have faith, why are we stopping at the gate? You have already opened the door for me to walk. But if I have faith, I have a hedge of protection. And I have a foundation, which is my family. And I have children, which are like arrows. What does that mean? Children are like arrows, man. That's messing me up. Wait, children are like weapons? Yes. The most damaging thing to the enemy is a child raised properly in God. A child that knows the Bible will grow up to be a man that knows the Bible. And that man that knows the Bible will grow up to have a family that knows the Bible. And now I not only have one hedge, I have 2 hedges, I have 3 hedges, I have 4 hedges, I have hedges all around. You cannot attack me, and you attack me, you have to attack my family, and my family will stand strong. So come on at the gate. Some of you might be wondering, why am I having so many troubles in my home? There's 2 answers. 1, you have let them in. 2, God is attacking you on your foundation because it's so strong. If I can break the foundation, if I can break the what? Foundation, I can break the man. If I can break the man, I can break the family. So this is where we are. The enemy is at the gate. They can't get in. They see my sons, which technically means my wife, which technically means my mom, which technically means her mom, which technically means my dad, which technically means her dad. They see my family, and they want to stop right there. That's why when we go to verse 5, it says, they shall not be ashamed, but speak with their enemies. Where? Out there. You're not coming in here with that madness. You are where? Out there. You can't come in here. You've got to stand at the gate. But I don't have to be ashamed. Why do I not have to be ashamed? Because my children aren't going crazy out in the streets. Because my wife ain't going crazy out in the streets. The enemy has nothing to attack me on except some other stuff that makes no sense. Because my family is taken care of. That's how I cannot be ashamed at the gate. That's how I can stand and not be ashamed at the gate. because my family is taken care of. Now, if they're not taken care of, if I'm not doing what I need to do, then when I meet the enemy at the gate, then what? He's going to accuse me. And no matter how good my sons are, they're going to walk right on in the gate. So Job is an example. Job is an example for Father's Day. Why? Because God wanted to touch him but couldn't. God then touched his foundation in the worst way possible, losing children. And in the end, God gave it all back. Why? Because God's faithfulness to Job and Job's faithfulness to God. God already knew Job was going to pass the test. That's why he said, have you considered my servant Job? You might be in a have you considered moment. I've been in that have you considered moment. I would like to not be in that again, but but you will be in that have you considered Job moment. When you are, be ready for the attack. That's why Ephesians says what? Armor yourself up. You don't armor for peace. You don't armor in peace times. You armor for what? War. Be ready in all instances. If you're not reading the Bible, read the Bible. If you're not praying, pray. If you're not ready, be ready. Because when the attack comes and they are standing at your gate, it is not the time to say, oh, I forgot to pray today. That's why children are a heritage from the Lord. They are a blessing to you. They are a gift to you. God is allowing you to pour into him or her everything that you have. If you have nothing to pour, then what will he or she be later on? You must have something to pour into them. Then your arrows will be straight and strong. Then your enemy comes to the gate and you will be ready to attack. They will not want to be with you. They don't want to attack you. They want to stand on the outside because you have what? A hedge of protection around you. I will close with this. Happy Father's Day. Know the weight and the burden upon fathers is great, but it's beautiful. Because fathers are the warriors that build mighty spears and arrows. And when the enemy is at the gate, fathers are the ones that will take and attack. Fathers are the ones that will pray. Fathers are the ones that will keep the enemies at bay. Don't be a stumbling block to fathers. Don't be a stumbling block to fathers. But allow them to be the godly men that God has called them to be. Thank you.